Hello everybody! So we are starting in on our last section in chapter 8, section 7, all about surface area. And we're actually going to spend 2 days at least on this section. I'm going to break it up into parts because there's a lot to cover and I want to make sure you're getting this. So as we work through the examples in the notes today, we're going to do examples 1 and 2 and then we'll save example 3 for tomorrow. But first, let's talk about what is surface area. And the surface area is the sum of the areas of the faces or surfaces, we can call them, of a 3D figure. Or a three-dimensional figure. So it's really a giant composite figure for area. So let's say we had a prism here, like this one. It's saying surface area is what's the area of each of the sides and the bases all put together. Or for a pyramid, we got a base right here that it sits on, and then what's the area of all the sides, all 4 of the other sides, put together, added together. Or let's say we had a cylinder. We'll talk about these in the second part or second day of this, but it would be what's the area of the side, and we'll discover when we unroll it that it's actually a rectangle, plus the area of the 2 bases, which are circles, which is why we did the circle lesson before we did this stuff. All right. So we're finding a lot of area and putting it all together. One way we can do that is using a net. Now this is not your traditional like fishing net or butterfly net. Instead, a net is the pattern that is made, or it's the pattern made when the surface of a 3D figure is laid out flat. And that shows each face of the figure. So that you see an example of that right below here. We have a prism and then we have its net. So it's taking, here's my prism. I have a little folded up one. See, flap, yeah, I didn't tape it all down. I just wanted to hold it basically together. So I've got a prism here. And right now it looks 3D. Whoops, I'll get it in the view here. Now I carefully open it up. Let's see if I can do this. Oops, maybe. I'll have a good laugh at how well Mrs. Jensen does this. There we go. And I unfold it, and now I've made it flat. I've made it 2-dimensional, and I can see each of the sides individually, and I can find the area, if I have the measurements, of what each side is, add it all up, and that'll be my surface area. I can do the same thing with a pyramid. So I've got a pyramid here. I'm just going to kind of hold it shut, maybe. There we go. There's our pyramid. Now, it just pops open real nicely. And you can see I've got a square and 4 different triangles. All the triangles, you notice, are the same. So that will come in handy later when we go from having the 3D figure to the net. That is going to be a good way to help us figure out what surface area is. And we'll take a look at that also then when we get to the cylinder and what a net for that looks like. But we'll deal with that when we actually get to that one. So let's take a look here at our prism. And I'm going to bring back my little foldable too, because you notice when we have it folded up here, maybe, there we go, got it all folded up. It's sitting this way. When I unfold it, it doesn't quite look like the picture. In the picture here, when they did the net, they turned it. My guess, well, here, they turned it like that. There we go. My guess is they turned it that way just for space's sake. So you can draw your net really however you want. And as you look at it, I'm going to pull that one aside. Let's look at the net that's actually drawn based on our prism here, where we have a length of 12, a width of 5, and a height of 2. Now, we're not going to worry about volume right now. We're talking strictly surface area. What do you notice here is they label all the different rectangles that were formed. Do you notice that some of them are the same? Like A and F are the same. B and D and C and E. When you have a rectangular prism, you're going to find that you're going to have at least two identical rectangle pairs. They're going to pair up. So you may say, okay, I can find the area of one, just multiply it by 2. Some people like to do that. Some people like to find the area of each individual one and add it up. It really doesn't matter. But right now, what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at our net, which lets us see each face or each side of our prism. And then these are all rectangles, so what formula do we use to find the area of rectangle? That's right, length times width. So we're going to use that here each time. We're going to look at each each rectangle. You notice they're labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F. Just labeled that way to help keep things organized. The more we can keep things organized, the easier this becomes for us. So I would encourage you to label things. The other thing you can do if you want, if you sketch out a net, which I encourage you to do as you work, is do the work right on each rectangle. So I'll do that here. I'm going to fill it in here. I'm also going to do the work, well, let's see here, somewhere. I'll kind of maybe pull this one in and out. But I'm going to label these here. This was A, and this was 2 and 5, right? And 2, and let's see, that was 2. Let's see, that's going to be 2 there. Let's see, that was E, D, F. Hold on. C and B. And you'll see how you could just do the work right on here if you wanted to. And these are all in inches, and we'll remember to deal with that at the end. We got A, B, C, D, E, F. So, A, you look at that rectangle, and we see it's got a length of 5 and a width of 2. So we're going to go 5 times 2, which equals 10. If you want, do it right on here. 5 times 2 equals 10. There you go. There's one piece. All right. Rectangle B. Let's see here. Length 5 or length of 12, whichever you want to say. And the 12 and 5 are your 2 dimensions. So we'll have 12 times 5, which is 60. That's right. You could do that right on here. 12 times 5 equals 60. I just am underlining the answer so it's easy to find later. C. All right. Well, it's going to be 12 long and 2 wide. 12 times 2 is 24. Very good. Do the same thing here. 12 times 2 equals 24. Okay. See, we're moving right along. Now look at rectangle D. Boy, that looks a lot like rectangle B, doesn't it? That's because it has the same dimensions. It's 12 times 5, which we know is 60. So I'm just going to kind of link those two together for us. And I can go back on here. 12 times 5 equals 60. All right, E. 12 tall, 2 wide. Looks a lot like C, doesn't it? So we already know 12 times 2 is 24. All right, so those two pair together. And then lastly, rectangle F. Boy, it looks a lot like A. A was 5 times 2, guess what? So was F, and that's 10. I can write that right in on here. And now we have all the areas. Oh, I can link those two as well. There we go. And so we have to add them all up. This is really a giant composite figure, isn't it? So we add it all up, add up each area. So we're going to add 10, 60, 24, 60, 24, and 10. I'm just going in order A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You could also look at it and say, I'm going to go, there's two 10s. I'm going to do 2 times 10 plus 2 times 60 plus 2 times 24. Means the same thing. Okay? We add all of that up and we figure out it's 188 inches squared. This is area, surface area. So we have to say it's inches squared for our units. So yes, we can use a net to help us visualize exactly what we need to do to find our area. All right, now let's take a look at another example, another figure. So after this, we're not going to look at example 3 on the bottom of the page. That will come in the next segment. But we're going to look at this pyramid. Here, we can basically find the area of each shape of our pyramid. See, we even drew a net in here. But we don't have to do the same thing over and over and over again, because we notice, we look at our net, we look at what we had here, and I pointed this out before. We unfold it. We have 4 identical triangles. Find that area once and multiply it by 4, multiply it by the number of triangles that you have. So we're going to find the area of the square plus the area of the triangular face that's been multiplied by 4, triangular, yep, and add it all together. So let's take a look. Remember, squares have all the same side lengths. So that means we would have, this is the square right here, and here's our triangle. And there's 4 triangle sides, so we have a 4 right there. So let's see, what's the side length of the square? Well, we can see here, it's 7, or we look at this picture, it's 7. So we'll have 7 squared, not supposed to be squared, plus 4 times 1/2 times the base of the triangle times the height of the triangle. 7 times 8. So 7 squared is 49. And then 1/2 times 7 times 8 should be 28. So now we'll have 49 plus 4 times 28 is 112. 49 plus 112 is 161. And once again, we have to put units squared because it's an area problem. All right, so that's area of a rectangular prism and then area of a square pyramid. Now, if you're using the note sheets, let's jump down here to the end where it says check it out. Let's look at numbers 1 and 2. We're not going to worry about number 3 yet because we haven't done that one yet. So we need to go back, we need to find the surface area, and they call it S, of the prism. So let's basically open it up. So let's open it up, if you will. And if you want to try and draw a picture for yourself, you can. Some people just like to look also, and we can do, I want to actually do this one just a little bit differently. Look at each of the different rectangles. I'm going to highlight them or mark them in different colors. I'm going to grab orange and blue and, well, pink it is. Notice we have our front triangles, and I'm marking that, I'm outlining it in orange. So it might be helpful to have a orange or some colors with you. So my front and my back, they're going to have the same dimensions. So this is going to be a slightly different way that you can solve, but will work just as well. So we have 8 times 6 for our dimensions, right? So this will be front and also back, right? 8 times 6, 8 times 6 equals 48. So we've got those two. Now, let's see here. I'm going to grab, let's do top. So I'm outlining the top, and it's opposite side because you notice the opposite sides are going to have the same measurements, the top and the bottom. Okay, so we'll go top and bottom. So let's look, well, we're actually gonna look at the bottom one first. So bottom, it's 10 by 6 or 6 by 10. The top is gonna be the same. The dimensions just pop up to the top. So we have 6 times 10 and 6 times 10. Okay, and then lastly, let's see if this is gonna show up, my pink. Actually, I have a purple right here. We're gonna use purple instead. It'll show up a little better. There, purple, yay! For the right and left. Okay, so here we have 10 and 8. So we'll go, I'll write it over here, left and right. And we'll say, what did we say, 8 times 10 is 80, and 8 times 10 is 80. Now, we've got all of those. So you can either find one of each of those set, multiply it by 2 and add it up, or you can find it all. And now let's just add them all together. 2 different ways we can do it. 2 times 48 plus 2 times 60 plus 2 times 80. Or 48 plus 48 plus 60 plus 60 plus 80 plus 80. Either way, when we add it all up, we should end up with 300 and, oops, not 78, 76 centimeters squared. That is our surface area. So you see, we could have split it all up into a net, and that's totally fine. We just did that essentially right now without having to draw the net. So if this makes more sense, mark your sides, figure out which sides pair up, find their areas, and then add it up. That might be a little bit easier. Now, when you get to number 2 and you find the surface area of the pyramid, really what we did in the notes is the easiest way to do it. Find the area of the square, find the area of the triangle, and multiply that by 4 and add them together. So let's find the area of our square. If it helps, mark it in a color. So our square, and I sometimes will do it in pieces and then add them together, but you can do it either way. So here we got our square. The side lengths are 5. So we'll have 5 squared plus 4 times, here's one of our triangles right here. Marking it in blue. Hopefully you can see it. There we go. It has a base of 5 and a height of 10. And remember, our base and our height form a right angle. So we'll plug that in. Remember, don't forget the half. So many people forget the half when they're finding the area of the triangle and it messes them up. So it's 1/2 times 5 times 10. All right, now just to make our math a little bit easier, 5 squared is 25. Then let's just multiply 1/2 times 5 times 10. Okay, that's 25. So we have 25 plus 4 times 25. So I'm going to go this way. 25 plus 100 equals 125. What kind of units? Feet squared. So that is another example of how we find surface area of a pyramid. All right, happy practicing.